Hey everybody, welcome to Boston Straight Shoes. This is a special Bruins hockey trade line edition. Uh, I have a lot to get out. I'm sure a lot of people do uh, about what went down yesterday, and it's way too long for what's not negative Ned minute and a half, 2 minute rant. So I'm gonna do a recap of who the Bruins traded and what they got back. And if you want to join, I'm going to post a link and get everybody's thoughts because there's a lot of I'm sure a lot of people do. There's a lot of unhappy campers, so to speak. Out of all the comments that I've been reading, I want to say only one or two people have been positive out of everything that I've seen. So Bruins Nation is miserable, to put it mildly. I'm not upset by what they did. Surprise, surprise, being negative Ned, right? But what they did is, in my opinion, is they had to do what's best for the team. This is the old Bill Belichick, I do what's best for the team kind of thing. So I think that's what Don Sweeney did here. I think that people are upset, but bear with me. I'm trying to fix this. Okay, so listen. Nobody's happy about Brad Marchand being traded, and I'm going to get to him in a minute. What I want to do is start at the top where they started with the trades. We'll start with Trent Frederick. He was an unrestricted free agent to be. He got traded to Edmonton in a 3-team trade. I'm not going to get the whole specifics of how that went down, but long story short, he was traded with Mac Jones and Peter Hauser, and the Bruins got back up and coming defenseman Max Warner, a second round pick in 2025, and second round pick in 2025, and a fourth round pick in 2026. I think that's a pretty good haul considering he could have walked away for nothing. So I'm definitely not upset with that at all. Again, good Bruin. He fights, drops the gloves. They'll miss some of that toughness, but overall, I don't think you can argue with the return on that. And I'll get into some of the specifics with the guys that they picked up later on. I'm just going to quickly recap who left and what they got, and then we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into each guy or whatever they did. Next up, Charlie Coyle. Charlie Coyle was traded to Colorado with a 5th-round pick in the 2026 draft for Casey Middlestat. William Zellers, he's a prospect, and a 2nd-round pick in the 2025 draft. This trade here, I think, netted probably the most in return because Zellers is now the Bruins' probably top prospect, and he's tearing it up in the USHL. And again, Charlie Coyle. Let me say this. If you've been watching, I've been on for weeks now saying that they need to, get some of the dead weight out of here. Charlie Coyle's done nothing all year long. He had a decent year last year, 60 points, but this year he's done nothing. 25, 30 points in 60-something games, that's not cutting it. And he's on the books for $5.5 million or whatever it is for another 2 years. So, no. Now, the guy they got back is younger. He's 26 years old. Again, we'll dive into specifics later, but I like the return. Zeller, if he's anywhere near what I've been reading and hearing, he's going to be a Bruin, hopefully, for a long time. Next, we're going to talk about Brandon Carlo. Brandon Carlo, who I've been on all year long because he's been terrible in my opinion. He has not played well. and I definitely wanted him gone. Him and his $4.1 million off the books. He went to Toronto for Fraser Minton, a conditional first round pick in the 2026 draft and a fourth round pick in the 2025 draft. So they got a decent return there too. Listen, there's a guy again, 2 more years, and he's soft in my opinion. You trade for a younger guy with some upside, and you get a first round pick. I'm happy with that deal too, because as we've discussed, with Don Sweeney trading away all the first round picks, they didn't have a lot left as far as draft picks go. So they're restocking, which I like. Next is the Bruins made a deal with Buffalo. This is a minor deal in my opinion. They picked up defenseman Henry Yokoharu from the Buffalo Sabres for a fourth round pick in the 2026 draft. He's 25 years old. He's got 1 year left at $3.1 million. His contract expires at the end of this year, so maybe he fits, maybe he doesn't. We'll see. Brandon Carlo, possible replacement. They have a couple of options there. This Yokoharu guy being one of them, since he's 25 and he has NHL experience. And the other youngster that they had picked up, from Edmonton. He'll probably start in the AHL with Providence. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the big news that everybody's all upset about. Brad Marchand being traded. A lot of unhappy campers, including my brother Mark, a.k.a. Sergeant Slaughter, who's been on here. He is, PO'd, not happy, as are many others. Denise, who is part of our group, also unhappy. Listen, you're talking about a guy that is 37 years old, and he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, and they tried to negotiate a contract for him to stay, and they couldn't come to an agreement, and he's out hurt. And so the best thing for them, what they did, is they got what they could in return for him. And I'm going to say what they got. They got a 2027 conditional second-round pick that will either become a 2027 or 2028 first-round pick if Florida wins 2 rounds in the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs and Marchand appears in at least 50% of the team's playoff games. So there's some caveats there for what the Bruins are going to get. And everybody's upset that, it's 2027 and it's not this year or next year. But given what they, if he was if Marchand is 100% healthy and he's playing, they're getting a first round pick. And even though Florida doesn't have a first round pick for the next 2 years, it would be guaranteed first round pick in 2027. And other teams like Vegas or, Los Angeles Kings, I heard yesterday late afternoon that they were in on them too. Though either one of those teams probably had a first round pick in this year or next year's draft. And that might have been a better return, but they probably backed off knowing that he's probably a week or 2 away from coming back. And so that's the conditional part of it. They are also retaining 50% of his remaining salary for this year. And so I got some comments about that too, about, they're eating salary. Listen, they're eating $600,000, which is like 18 games worth of salary. They're not eating, $6 million, which is what he started the year with. Tim says, don't trade Geeky. He's the only winger that has worked with Pasta and Zaka, which is true. Danny also doesn't want to trade Geeky. Well, it's too late to trade them now, but I believe he's a restricted free agent. I'll have to follow up on that, but I believe he has a chance of coming back, and I would not get rid of him. And I think that's part of the reason they didn't get rid of him is because he's working well with those guys, and he's got the upside there. So, look, they did what they had to, in my opinion. People are upset. but you're not bringing this guy back next year at $4 million a year, or whatever he feels he's worth. My opinion is, they probably offered him the same deal that they gave to Bergeron and Krejci, which is probably like $2 million a year with incentives, and he probably feels like, nope, I'm worth at least 4 or more, whatever it is, and the Bruins are like, no, we're not doing this, and I don't blame him. Look, not because I wanted to see Brad Marchand get traded. He's been a good Bruin. He's going to be one of the top Bruins in history at some point. Not. I don't think he's top 5 or whatever, but can he be top 10 maybe? But Marchand at 33, yeah, sign him right away. Fine, give him $6 million a year, but give him, $4 million a year now at 37, and you're stuck with him for another 2-3 years because he wants to retire here and play until he's 40. I'm sorry. That's a no. You gotta start thinking with your head and stop thinking with your heart, because that leads to aging, underperforming guys getting overpaid, and the Bruins are not in a position to afford that right now with the way the roster is given. I think that they are bereft of talent down in Providence. That was mentioned by Billy Jaffe, I believe, during one of the intermissions or post game, whatever it is. I mean, look, not Billy Jaffe. I'm sorry. Different show. Mike Giardi. He was on a different show, and he said that somebody mentioned to him that they just don't have a lot of talent down there. So look, they got to do something. Whatever he wants. Maybe they can renegotiate in June when he's a free agent, and maybe they'll come to an agreement. He can come back. But they had to get what they could from him, in my opinion, and I think they did the right thing. The infusion of young guys that they got in these trades, I think, is huge for them. Again, they don't all always pan out, but the Bruins have way too many guys in Providence, like Fabian Lysell, who's a number 1 pick, doing nothing down there. Got 1 game up here. Guys like Vinny Lettieri, and there's another guy, Merkulov. Like, those 3 guys are like the top guys down there. They come up here, they do nothing. I mean, they're just, kick those guys to the curb now, and infuse these other guys and see what they can do. I mean, you have an 18 game sample now. And even though Don Sweeney in his press conference said that it wasn't a complete teardown or whatever, I'm pretty sure many will disagree. I being one of them. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, if it wasn't a complete teardown, you wouldn't trade any of Marchand, Coyle, or Carlo. You would have only traded probably Frederick and Justin Brazeau, who I forgot. I apologize if I didn't mention him. They did trade him to Minnesota on Thursday for Marat Kuznetsov and Jacob Lauko and a 6th-round pick. So Jacob Lauko is coming back. A solid 3rd, 4th line guy. Plays hard, not afraid to mix it up. Familiar face. I'm not doing cartwheels over it, but you know what? Good young guy, again, 24 years old. He's got some upside maybe, and we'll see what happens there. But, I really don't think Don Sweeney had a choice but to do the way that he did. The core of whatever they've had for the last 10, 11 years or whatever from the last Stanley Cup. He's Brad Marchand, last remaining piece from 2011 Stanley Cup winner. I don't think that this core group has it in them to get to the next level that the Bruins need to go to. And it's been evidenced all year long with, some of the shellackings that they've taken 7-2, 5-1. Just sometimes listless play, getting outshot, 28-11 or some stuff. I mean, the only way to do it is shake up the room. This should put some people on notice and hopefully get some better play out of them. And I I would not be surprised if Don Sweeney was not done in the offseason and made some more moves, maybe use some of these young guys or some of the picks. And I don't know if they can trade for a goal scorer or they can trade for, some veteran upgrade. But, I think he has a lot more to work with now probably than he's had in the last 10 years. And, I'm going to give him an ounce of credit for that. I have here a snippet of what Don Sweeney had to say about Brad Marchand, and we'll play this right here.
Again, there for his draft and coming in and surprising everybody from day one and joining our team. And obviously the captain in Brad Marchand. And, that one goes back a long ways for me and cuts deeper than really any player that I've had the privilege of getting to know and watch thrive and become a, Hall of Famer and a great, one of the greatest Bruins ever. So a difficult day from that standpoint, personally, professionally. It's making some very difficult decisions and want to wish each and every one of them well. They're going to teams that we're jealous of.
So, look, tough day for him. He made a tough decision. I think collectively as an organization, I saw a comment from Charlie Jacobs, who's, pretty much running the show now, and said, hey, look, we're supporting this. And, whatever. I mean, I'm sure it's not an easy decision. And he acknowledges in the press conference, I watched the whole 27 minutes. He said, hey, if I'd have done a better job, we wouldn't be in this position. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he's acknowledging that it wasn't good enough. He acknowledges that he's got to fix it. And there's also a boatload of, fire Sweeney over the last, few weeks or whatever, and including now for sure. I think he's definitely coming back. He's going to get at least one season to try to do a rebuild here and see what they can do next year. And then maybe if they don't make the playoffs next year, maybe he gets fired. But I would not expect him to be fired now. And you kind of have to give him a half a shot here to see what he can do. Many may compare this to the Patriots, last year with the 4-13 stuff and, being in the top 5 in the draft and all that nonsense. And it is possible. It is definitely possible. Let's see let me get some of the comments here. Let's see, Torts or Berube for Sacco. I think both those guys are already with teams. I don't think they're going anywhere. Carolina's last goal was pinball wizard off a lot. The last goal was that was just awful. It was probably the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. But I think they were on the verge of trading most of these guys before that anyway. Danny Berube make an offer. Yeah, I don't think he can. I think he's in Toronto. He's probably going to be there for a couple of years at least. Don't hold your breath waiting for a big deal before 3 tomorrow. All right. Well, the trade deadline's over, so there's no more trades happening. This is a recap of yesterday's activity, and there was a lot of it. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I can't do a recap in 3 minutes, and I don't want to tie up the show this week too much with this because we got time limits and whatnot, but. This is it's a tough pill for people to swallow. Shut that, please. Okay, get them out. Sorry, I'm having a slight issue over here. Technical difficulties. So, look, let me do this while I have a few minutes left. Where'd that go? All right, let me recap what the Bruins got back. Max Warner from Edmonton, 21-year-old defenseman playing in the minor leagues. He's been hurt this year a lot. Last year he played 68 games. He was a plus 13. He's a stay-at-home guy. And before the season, there was a scout that was quoted from the Western Hockey League that said he's long and rangy and plays with a miserable bite. So that's refreshing for me. They need a little bit more snarl back there, and that's a guy I would look at to possibly take Brendan Carlo's spot. Next, Marat Kuznetsov. I'll get this name right at some point, but that's a tongue twister and a half. His draft scouting report at the time from 2020: explosive two-way center, flashy, skilled, and an offensive threat on every shift. A leader and team player, wins battles and plays with a lot of confidence. That's something definitely missing this year. I don't think the Bruins have been winning enough puck battles. So again, a young guy, maybe a change of scenery will help him. Supposedly he was on his way to Iowa in the AHL, and he may start in Providence. He may start here. I don't know. At 3:00 today when the Bruins play Tampa, we're going to get a good look at what the lineup's going to look like. Maybe he's in it, and I kind of hope he is because, we get a chance to see what the young legs look like. Next, Casey Middlestat. Okay, I don't know a lot about him. He's 26 years old. He's 7 years younger than Charlie Coyle. He has a very similar price tag. I think he's got 5.75 on the books for the next 2 years, but he's a center. And so now instead of mix matching what they had with Charlie Coyle playing wing, and, again, unfortunate, Elias Lindholm hasn't panned out as the number one guy that they thought they were getting. So that's a problem. But look, if he's a center and he can be number 2 or number 3, that's going to be a good sign. And, again, maybe a change of scenery helps him. Colorado's loaded. A guy like him probably has a hard time finding minutes. Or if he doesn't fit their system, or I don't know, whatever. But, I mean, look, take a chance on him. You got nothing to lose. Whatever we have here is not working, so I'm fine with that. Fraser Minton, the guy they got in the Brendan Carlo trade, 2022 second-round pick, physical play with impressive shot. He projects as a dependable two-way center at the NHL level. So, look, it's a guy that's probably a third-line center or a fourth-line center. Again, 22 years old. Tim says the team looks like it's from Providence. Well, right now, yeah. Well, look, at least it looks like Providence without the Providence dead weight that they've been trying to infuse in here. So look, it's gonna be a struggle for a little bit, and we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see, Will Zellers, excuse me. Will Zellers, third-round pick of the Avalanche in 2024. He leads the USHL with 37 goals in 40 games. That's a definite win, in my opinion, to get a guy like that. I know it's the USHL and it's not, another major league or whatever. But look, anything that they get that looks close to that is something that they're going to need going forward, whether it's, definitely next year for sure, or, if he's a couple years away. I'm fine with that, and the write-up that I saw says he's an exciting offensive player and immediately becomes one of the Bruins' top 3 prospects. So that's a win in my book, and sorely needed the way that they've been drafting the last, under Don Sweeney for the last 10 years. And the last guy, Henry Yokoharu, right shot defenseman, 25 years old. Again, his contract expires at the end of the year, so I would not be surprised to see him in the lineup. And then we'll have to wait and see if he gets re-signed at the end of the year based on his play. If he doesn't, then look, they got a couple other guys in the pipeline. And, with the cap money they freed up, Brandon Carlo's cap money is gone. Brad Marchand's cap money is gone at $6 million. So that's $10 million in cap space. And again, I'm not saying that, that's what they're going to start the year with. But they have other guys that are either restricted or unrestricted free agents. So, I'm just going to take a wild stab and say that their cap space off the top of my head probably resembles something closer to 15, maybe even 20 to start. And, what does the free agent class look like? Can they get a guy that's a 30-goal scorer and pay him $6 million like they were paying Marchand, or 7 or whatever it is, not 8 or 10 because they'll be too high. But can they get a 25? Can they get a goal scorer? I want a goal scorer. Obviously, we're going to talk about this forever. for the second line so they can get balance. And they also need one or two veteran guys in the locker room, veteran presence guys that can fill out like the third line, etc. Tim mentioned during a chat that we had, James Van Riebsdyk, doesn't always score up on the score sheet, but's a good guy in the locker room and a veteran that the guys, excuse me, lean on. Oh, excuse me. A guy like that, not not Pat Maroon. They don't need that this year. Last year they needed a little bit of toughness, but he's not an option at this point. He's washed up in my opinion. He's cash. He's 35, 36 years old. He's on the end. They don't need that, but they need guys like them that are veterans that have enough experience to help the locker room, because and Don Sweeney addressed it too, was that the leadership isn't going to come from one guy. Even when Marchand was the captain or whoever's the captain, it isn't going to be one guy all the time. You're not going to have that. Who's going to be the next captain? Yet to be seen. I would not be surprised if they just went with, 2 A's on the sweater, or even 3 A's, and said, okay, it's Pasternak, it's McAvoy, it's Zacha, it's, pick another guy. And we're not going to have a captain for the rest of the year. The Bruins have done that before. In this particular case with a few games left in the season, it would make sense if they didn't have to name a captain right now. And if people thought that it would be McAvoy or Pasternak, I wanted McAvoy before. I really thought that he would be the guy to step up and be the next young leader, given his contract and given how long he's going to be here left. I really thought that he would be next in line, and I don't know if that's guaranteed or not. And David Pasternak, look, nobody's looked at him as a captain, although his play in the last 2 months, he's really picked it up. He's been the team's best player, and I don't care what sports radio guys say about his turnovers and them getting frustrated with him or trying to ship him out of town. He's the only one really doing anything, and you don't do that. I'm sorry. I'm still taking that to my grave. If they trade him, I'm never watching the Bruins again. But as far as him being captain, I'm not sure. I'd like to see what they add in the offseason first, and then go into training camp and then figure out who the captain's going to be. I think they have plenty of time for that. They're also looking at probably having a new coach, and that's going to factor into it too. So there's a lot there that they have to iron out as they rebuild. I know Cam Neely called it a retool, and we've mentioned retool, but this is not a retool. This is a rebuild at this point when you trade away that many experienced guys, especially at the top of the core with Brad Marchand being traded. And so, look, everybody's got an opinion, and you can't win everything. Everybody can't. Listen, it sucks to suffer. We watched the Patriots suffer for the last few years now. It stinks. It's not enjoyable at all. But I'm tired of seeing Brendan Carlo and Charlie Coyle doing nothing, and and not that Brad Marchand was doing nothing, but if he's not willing to be reasonable to be re-signed, then their hands are really tied. Again, if he's younger, if he's 34, 33, 35 even, maybe they have a better chance, but not at 37 years old. I'm sorry. They did what they had to. And, again, I'll give Don Sweeney credit as much as people want to fire him. Look, when I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong, right? I'm not going to be right, and I'm not going to sit here and, I'm not gloating over this, but I am going to give Don Sweeney some credit, and give him probably a B or a B plus for this, because if he had done nothing and they traded away Trent Frederick and Brazo and that's it, nothing else, and they didn't improve and they don't make the playoffs, then you can't give him a B or B plus. He's going to get an F. And I know a lot of people will give him an F anyway just for trading Marchand alone, but I have to give him credit. I think that it's not easy to do, and I don't know. I would have done the same thing as him. Put it that way. If I was the GM, I've been on here for weeks now talking about blowing these guys out of here, and I would have done the same exact thing. And so, if next year when they suck, I'll come on here like I've been doing and say, look, I was wrong. They didn't get enough in return, or they didn't get this guy, or they didn't sign anybody in free agency, or, Don Sweeney sucks, get him out of here. I'll be the first one to eat crow. But I hope I'm wrong. And, it's not because I want them to lose or whatever. I think it's time. I think it's just time for them to rebuild and move forward and get a new core and see what the future holds. So I'm going to stop here. I'm sure there'll be more discussions and, more angst and anger over this over the coming weeks and months. But for now, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Thanks for those of you that tuned in, commented. Thanks for voting in the polls. And we'll see you guys later.